All right, we're gonna move to a little different, and again, I don't present any of my own presentations, I just present other people's presentations. So this is just some of the changes. So we have a section on your kind of, late breaking news kind of thing. So again, this is about some of the changes with the ERAS application. So last year, there was a supplemental application where emergency medicine just did the signal, preference signaling. So emergency medicine, we had the 5, some places had 20, or some specialties had 20, some specialties had a gold, silver, bronze, or whatever. I still don't understand what OB was doing. So this year, ERAS is trying to standardize it a little bit better. So actually, I'm going to go through, so I'm going to skip a lot of these slides. So again, these are the specialties that did it last year. So other parts of the supplemental application that emergency medicine chose not to last year was the geographic signaling or geographic preference signaling, and then the prior work, volunteer, and work experiences. So the purpose of the prior experiences provide new information program, and again, kind of standardize it. So this year, with ERAS trying to standardize applications, this will be for the students to write. So they will write about their previous work experiences. There'll be like 3 of these experiences that they can write about, and they can choose whatever experience they want and just go a little bit more in depth. So they'll have, I think it's 250 characters to write about the 3 different experiences. And again, it's for them to choose what they feel is important. We're also doing the geographic preferencing. Now, let me pull up what the geographic areas are real quick, because they don't always make sense. I didn't realize how many slides there were. Oh, I've gone too far. So these are the settings that they look at. So again, the groupings may not make sense for preference signaling, but this is all based off of some national, the U.S. Census Division and what they set it as. So again, people have already provided some feedback back to ERAS that, hey, we might want to look at these again. So students can, again, signal, are they interested in, Pacific, which includes Washington, Oregon, California, Alaska, Hawaii. So obviously there's lots of variations in those, but you can signal that you're interested in that. Then you can also signal if you're interested in urban, suburban, rural, or rural. So lots of different descriptions. And again, these are all based off of the U.S. Census and how they describe these. So again, same thing, look at the mountain region. Again, there's very differences in those, but these are the geographic preferences. So again, this is something that all students will be asked to do this year, which would be new compared to last year. We're still going to do the preference signaling for programs. Last year, they had where we could do 5 preferencing, and they were kind of some instructions. Don't signal places your home institution, don't signal rotations that you did. That's kind of changed this year. So at least the number I heard at CORD was it's probably 7 signals. I haven't heard like a final what it's going to be, but 7 signals with the expectation that if you want to go to your home institution, that you will signal your home institution. If you liked your away rotation, that you will signal your away rotation. Because I will say, our program director last year did say, we interview all our students, which is great, but I actually don't know which ones of our students really want to come here and which ones don't want to come here, because the expectation is they wouldn't signal them. So unless there was like side conversations, just didn't know. So again, this year, 7, but again, you'll actually signal your home and your, and if you did an away rotation, signal that program as well, if assuming that the student is interested in going to those programs. What at least when I'm advising students, I'm telling them, like, if they want to go to their home institution, that they should be signaling to the home institution. Now, again, like, when I first sat down, I was actually doing some texting back and forth with my PD, who was actually in the same meeting, to make sure that we're kind of on the same page. So we're going to be upfront, students. All of our U of M students who apply to University of Michigan for residency will get an interview. But you still, if you are really interested in coming to our program, you still need to do the signaling. It's trying to get away from some of that backdoor sort of thing. I mean, it's going to happen anyways, but try to get away from that a little bit, to not so much cheat the system. But that's what we're telling our students. And I have not met with, the assistant dean to kind of, for advising to see what they're doing yet. Again, that's how I'm approaching it.
Previously, or last year, my understanding of preference signaling is that it primarily would get people interviewed who were kind of on the border of getting interviewed or not. So is now our program using this to make final decisions on applicants, or only like last year of who gets interviewed?
So it's not supposed to be used for rank. But it's one of those things where if you know someone who's really wants to go to your institution, especially in the setting that we're in now, where, I've seen numbers of 800 extra spots next year, I think it's automatically going to go tie into in some ways, I think. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that I understand, good. I don't understand if we're not proceeding.
Well, so what it tells those, like when you're looking at applications, if you've got, you and Will both applying, your applications look the exact same, and you're looking to who to interview, and you say you've signaled me and Will hasn't, then I may offer that spot to you. That's the thought process behind it. But yes, when it comes though to, for interviewing 1,100 people, 1,300 people, you're going to have a lot bigger numbers and different numbers. But I can tell you, like I said, in that discussion I had with our PD, does look at that a little bit.
Away from this at the core too is that we're doing this to get in line with what other specialties are doing too, and that's why we're doing it. But I think it's going to be pretty inconsistent amongst different programs as far as whether they do tell their home students to signal versus otherwise. For the reason I think everybody's stating, we're not being for rank listings, and why would I advise a student to submit a preference to me knowing full well that I'm going to interview them? So I think this is going to be very variable.
Yeah, I think there might still be programs that are going to tell their students, I know, we're going to interview you anyway, don't signal. Yeah, and that's things like in the discussion I had with MPD is I'm going to tell the students if they're interested, they need a signal. So now again, for the program, like they just know if they received a signal, because students can still, like, if they can choose not to signal. They can choose not to do geographic signaling. They can choose not to do the preference signaling for individual programs. So, again, the PD at University of Michigan doesn't know. Maybe the student didn't signal any programs, or maybe they just didn't signal me. They don't know. And same thing with that supplemental. So the geographic's the same way. Students can choose to or not to signal, and you're not going to know. You only know if they signal you. You won't know if they didn't signal anybody, if they opted out. And even that additional supplemental three experiences you can write about, again, students can opt in or opt out of doing that. And kind of what I'm advising my students into that is kind of like, are there experiences that were kind of, life-changing, life-altering? So again, you had, maybe a loved one that, potentially passed away during your or during medical school that really affected your performance. Did you have some, some experience that really got you into medicine, and that's why you're doing it? So those things that kind of make you stand out a little bit. So that's how we're going to kind of use some of that advising. Yeah, there's no updates this year for the SLOE form itself. So it's going to look very similar to last year. I know I've seen some of the data that some individuals had some very strong opinions about it. But like with any opinions, they go both ways. Some people like the changes, some people hated the changes. So can't make everybody happy. Just try to piss off less people. So any other questions about like the changes in ERAS application or even the SLOE? Yeah, so that's why, like, what we're gonna say is if you wanna come to University of Michigan, you need to signal University of Michigan. Just use a signal. But I do think there's gonna be potentially some places that don't signal us, we know you're interested. But that's why it's gone from like 5 to 7, so the thought being those other 2 are gonna be your home institution and your away rotation, or your 2 away rotations, depending on how many you did. This year, there was not, actually, another thing it brings up is away rotations. You know, the last couple of years, CDEM and EMRA and CORD has come out with kind of consensus statement about away rotations. Just have overall 2 rotations, 1 home, 1 away, or 2 away rotations. This year, a consensus statement did not come out because there was no consensus. You know, programs, you know, with the drop in numbers, you know, they wanted more visiting students. They wanted students to come look at their program, get to know their program. You know, so, and they were looking at it, you know, from the CDEM side of things, they want to make sure all students have availability of away rotations, because that was one of the issues that we ran into kind of pre-COVID, is you had some students going on 4 rotations, some students who couldn't find a second rotation. You know, now again, with that drop off, you know, kind of unofficially, talked to some of the clerkship directors. So actually, you know, as of Thursday, I'm the CDEM president. But so talking to some other clerkship directors, you know, they've seen a drop from, you know, a half to a third of their normal visiting student applications. So again, so from the residency side of things, hey, we've seen numbers drop off. We don't think it's going to be an issue getting visiting student spots for students. We want the, you know, more students to come look at us. So yeah, so no consensus statement this year. Any other questions? If not, we actually have a short, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What are you taking into account on this rotation, on this flow? My understanding of the intention was that it should, in an ideal world, be just their performance on that rotation, not the
Do you have that in here, Will, at all, that cut out? So I think everybody does it differently. So like when I've had visiting students, again, I meet with all the students, I do the advising students. So basically anything that they've said in their advising form, I will include. Because again, one of the questions on there, where might they fall on your rank list? And, you know, depending on who's in the room, you're going to use all that data, you know, when they kind of decide what their rank list is. So we use all that data. You know, we'll use, you know, the step scores if they've provided to us, their scores on their other rotations. Now, again, I don't use like comments from there, but it's really more, you know, probably most applicable when I look at rank list and where they're going to fall, that sort of thing. You know, when we do, one thing that Will then shows, we actually do it, you know, we'll do the sticky notes where we actually will kind of rank our students, since that was one of the previous questions. And on those notes, again, we'll have what their previous clinical scores were, what their step score was, again, if we have it, and that sort of thing. So we use all that data. But I do know some programs don't use all that data. They'll just use their performance on that. And that's, again, that's why those check boxes were put in there. Yeah.
The question of like dedication to the specialty of emergency medicine and so on as well, does that would be very difficult to answer without using information outside of the
Yes, I believe it is. I don't know if I can pull it up. I'm pretty sure. Maybe it's not on there anymore. Yeah. So that's it. So I think you just use the data you have. And again, like I said, when I meet with students, even visiting students, you know, I'll fill out an advising form that asks them what their grades were, if they're willing to share it. So again, so I would use that data because they provided me that data, where again, if you don't have that data, then you don't use that data. So, yeah, I don't see that section on here. So there is a question now about the exam. It asks you what exam you use. It actually asks what grade they received on that exam. So yeah, did they use the NVMe shelf exam? Did they use the SAEM exam? So that's on there, what their grade was for those. I think it does, I think there is a section, Will, do you have it open then in front of you?
And it asks the average exam score at the institution as well. But then otherwise, so other than the exam, which was a big score, it says you honors through the fail system or the test pass, that's where your grade system is. But fail that doesn't ask what the system is.
Now, for us, like, we don't have like a procedural, we don't get evaluation, so the part that talks about, you know, in regards to their procedural ability, so again, ability to perform common ED procedures, I know you guys can't, I don't know what the hell that is. It talks about the fully entrustable mostly and pre-entrustable. There's also that unable to assess, so pretty much all of ours, I use that unable to assess because we don't do procedural skills or evaluations on those procedures. Any other questions at all from anybody? If not, we've got a short break. We're a little bit over on time. It's about 11 o'clock, so take it 11:10. Sound okay?